Sometimes a story comes along that is just so unbelievably disturbing, it feels like it has to be fake. This is one of those stories. It's a modern, true crime case that law enforcement just wouldn't touch. So, a global community of online sleuths decided to crack it themselves. And what they uncovered forces us to ask a really tough question. What actually happens when justice is crowdsourced?
All right, before we get into this, I have to give a serious content warning. The things we're about to discuss are incredibly graphic. We're talking about extreme violence and even consensual cannibalism. So please be advised, this is deeply disturbing stuff.
I'm about to come. Those were the victim's final words, and they were captured on video just seconds before he died. That single, shocking line, spoken in a moment that was somehow both ecstasy and death, tells you everything you need to know. This is one of the most bizarre and horrifying cases the internet has ever had to piece together. So, where does this all begin? It starts in July of 2025. And this wasn't kicked off by a police report or some family filing a missing persons claim. Nope. It all started when a series of videos so horrific you'd think they were fake, started making the rounds in the darkest corners of the internet. There were three main videos that surfaced. The first one was called The Rehearsal, and it was just chilling, a practice run. The second, The Execution, showed the actual killing. And the third video, The Butchering, was maybe the worst of all. It showed the killer methodically dismembering the body and actually preparing parts of it to be cooked. And here's the thing, this stuff wasn't just leaked for shock value. It was being sold. As you can see right here in this screenshot from a private Telegram group, these horrific photos and videos were being bundled into packages and sold to the highest bidder. So from the very beginning, this wasn't just a murder. It was a commercial product. For the online investigators trying to make sense of this, the first crucial step was figuring out who the victim was. Because once they had a name, they could access his digital ghost, his entire online footprint, and that was the key to unlocking this whole terrible mystery. And pretty quickly, they got a name. Win Sun Dot. His Facebook profile was still up, and his very last public post from weeks before the videos even surfaced was this cryptic message right here. It just says, "From today, this account will be off forever. A truly chilling goodbye." Now, this slide really shows you the two sides of the story. On the left, you've got his public farewell. But on the right, well, that's a private message from years earlier, and it reveals this hidden obsession he had. He writes, plain as day, "I volunteered to be beheaded." It turns out, this wasn't some random act of violence. It was the fulfillment of a fantasy he'd had for a very, very long time. And just look at this. This really shows you how deep his desire went. This is his profile on a gore and fetish forum, and it made it all the way back in 2019. His bio is incredibly explicit. "I love beheading. I also want to lose my head with an axe or sword." For more than 5 years, Win Sun Dot was actively online searching for someone who would kill him. Okay, so with the victim identified and this bizarre consensual motive established, the online detectives turned their full attention to the killer. They started poring over those gruesome videos, frame by frame, looking for any tiny clue that could lead them to the butcher. They essentially started building a virtual clue board, and 4 key pieces of evidence started to emerge. There was a blurry tattoo on the killer's bicep that seemed to say "that day 13-9, a bottle of La Vie water, which is a huge brand in Vietnam, a bottle of Chinese dish soap, which hinted that the location was probably in the northern provinces near the border, and finally, the killer himself took a mirror selfie, revealing he was a muscular, middle-aged guy. But even with these clues, the investigation just hit a wall. Dot was thought to have died around January 25th. The videos leaked in July. By August, a really promising lead on a guy named Chung just went nowhere. It was a total dead end. And for months, the case went completely cold. And then, after 3 long months of absolute silence, everything changed. It was late November 2025, and a new, anonymous source suddenly appeared online. And this person, they had the missing piece of the puzzle. This source released brand new chat logs that no one had seen before. And in these messages, the killer actually uses a name, Cam Thang Chung, and gives a specific location, Long Son Province, which is right there in northern Vietnam on the border with China. This one leak completely reignited the entire hunt.
Now, armed with a name and a location, the online community went into absolute overdrive. What happened next was just a masterclass in digital detective work, connecting all these little breadcrumbs with incredible speed.
The final breakthrough really came in 4 quick steps. First, they had that name from the leak, Cam Tang Chung. Second, they had a theory. What if the killer was using his son's name, Tang Chung, as his username? That led them to accounts like Tang Chung 11111. Third, they found that exact username was linked to another handle, Donsung LS. And boom, step 4. That handle led them straight to the public real-name Facebook profile of a man named Wan Sang, who lived, you guessed it, in Langsan.
And this right here, this is the moment everything snapped into place. The absolute smoking gun. On the left, you see the killer's blurry tattoo again, that day 13-9, and on the right, that's a document that had been posted online by Don Song's own son. It clearly shows his son's name is Ben Ching, and his birthday is September 13th. The tattoo wasn't a random date. It was his son's birthday. It was the final, undeniable proof.
So this is the man they identified, Duan Song. And when you look at his public profile, it's jarring. He was a public figure in his community, a local official, a family man who posted pictures with his wife and kids, a completely normal, everyday persona hiding this unbelievably dark secret. So think about this. The internet identified the victim, figured out his motives, found the killer, and even pinpointed his exact location. And yet, no official arrest has been made. Which leaves us with this one big lingering question. When the internet solves a crime that the law won't or can't touch, what happens next?